Gizali lombele yangu linatisha kama zira ili linatisha kama rangi ya huzuni, matatizo yanizunguka pande zote, sioni pa mbele yangu, sioni pa kama zira kuna wakusaidia, najua hata atatatua mambo haya, kope kukiri jina lake, najua
Hello and good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
We are live on YouTube as well. Join us on YouTube. Please go to Karengata, subscribe, and you'll find our live feed there.
linatisha kama zira ili linatisha kama
Thank you, Ross. Thank you for that music item. So just welcoming everyone who is joining us. Good thing our panelists are already with us, the Kafitis. One more time, I want to thank you for finding time to be with us, and just welcoming all our viewers wherever in Kenya or globally. We are welcoming you to the first mentorship session organized by the Karengata and the ambassadors. Please feel free to join us on Zoom or on YouTube. And I bet the program panelists that we have ahead, I'm sure life will change today. So without any further ado, I'll ask Angie to open it up with a word of prayer and followed up by a devotion, and then I'll come back to the program.
Sure. Thank you, Elder Steve. Let's bow our heads for a word of prayer. Our kind and gracious Father, we thank you for this day that you have blessed us with. We thank you for the day of rest that you have granted us and the blessings that we have received from our speakers. May you guide us as we start this session, this afternoon session, and we pray that your Holy Spirit may guide our speaker, Sarah and Ken Kapiti, as they talk to us and enlighten us, Lord. We're grateful for their time and your presence. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Like Elder has said, we welcome everybody who has joined. My short reading will come from the book of Galatians, chapter 6, verses 9. And I will read it. And if you have your Bible with you, let us read together. So Galatians 6, verses 9 says, "Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Now, this message comes at a time where it spoke to me because during this time we're all faced with the COVID. And a lot of us, or maybe a few of us, might be unemployed, or a few of us may not know our direction or purpose that God has for us. But this verse really spoke out to me because it tells us that we should not grow weary. I believe a lot of us, maybe, let's say 5 years ago, we had thoughts of having our business well, having our careers set, knowing what we're going to do in 5 years. But 2020 was, an upside down kind of year. And God tells us not to be weary and that He has an opportunity for us in the future. He has a way for us. He has a plan that he knows what is best for us. Sometimes we think our direction is the best way. We think that the next step that we should make is A, B, C, but God tells us no, just wait. So Galatians tells us not to be weary and to do good, and that we will reap our harvest when God believes it's time. So as we will also be given guidance from our speakers today, they will talk to us about how we can better ourselves in terms of our career, how we can know when we are in an interview, or even right now, what can we do to better ourselves so when God has that time for us, we are ready and we're set. So thank you and be blessed.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
When so I'd like to present supporting the ambassador with this running together with give an opportunity of the hi to the plan with them, tell them. So, and ask self-introduction. Take this opportunity to invite believing us to go to a program. So time, yeah. So this is time for the cafetes. We switch on your mic with a self-introduction.
Hi. Hello.
Hi.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome.
Can you hear us well?
Perfectly well.
Yeah, we were struggling to hear you. I'm not even sure what you said there.
Oh, sorry for that. Can I repeat?
Yeah, maybe if you don't mind.
Saying we need to do a self-introduction. Then I'll just plug in with what I already have, just in case you leave out some interesting things about yourselves when you're doing self-introduction. So I'll just handing over the floor to you.
Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. You're getting us well?
Yes.
You're getting us well? Are we communicating?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, I can. We can hear you.
You can't or you can?
Yes, it's good.
Okay. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Again. These are the cafetes. Cafetes are divergent. The subject of the day concerns HR, which happens to be the forte of my wife, Sarah Kafiti. She had given you her brief of who she is and how she has gotten there. I want to believe that a few of you may have had a chance to look at it. I consider her quite an authority on matters HR, and getting married to one, you get inducted into it without knowing. Because as a husband to a HR, I can tell you that the house runs on HR principles, and it's therefore part of our growing, part of our modeling to perfect the act. Today, the subject we are discussing has much to do with the HR, and for that reason, Sarah will be the lead presenter with a lot or quite a bit of support from me of what I have learned, our involvement in what we have been doing together. We run an outfit called Smart People HR Services, and in that outfit, I run the operations, and therefore I have a fair understanding of exactly what particularly the subject of the day entails. However, I shall allow her to take the lead, and she'll be discussing. Maybe briefly she might tell you about herself and her HR credentials before she gets into the subject. I'm now welcoming her to continue until a bit later.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to be part of you. I feel young already to be speaking to the youth. I had shared my introduction with Angela. I don't know if you had shared with them.
Yes, yes.
You had shared.
We have
okay.
it, and I think we're going to share it.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. I'm basically in human resource, and I have over 19 years experience in running human resource and operations. I am currently working for H-Young as a human resource manager. I have worked for other multinationals before I joined H-Young. And as Mr. Kafiti told you, we also run a firm together, which is Smart People HR Services. Yes.
That's nice. That's wonderful.
Okay, thank you, Sarah. I just saved this for last. I had a food, and I saved it for last just in case. Not in my list, but education, just as you.
Sorry, Steve, we're not able to hear you clearly.
All right. Let me try again. Any better?
Sorry? All right.
So Angie, why don't you just go ahead?
All right. As we wait for Elder to join us again, we'd like to take this opportunity, like he mentioned earlier. We're so grateful for our couple, I would call them, Mr. and Miss Kafiti, to join us today, this afternoon, to basically enlighten us as youth as to what exactly or how to better our ways in our profession. I believe a lot of us, maybe, and myself, I'm unemployed, and there are some tips and tricks that I would love to know. And this session was built for us to be empowered, was built for us to also ask as many questions as we possibly can think about at this moment, how to prepare for that interview, because I know a lot of us, or maybe a few of us, may not know. But in the future, we will also have other sessions where we will have her, Mr. and Miss Kafiti, come to talk to us about how to be able to build our CV. But for today, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome both Miss and Miss Kafiti in their presentation for today. Thank you.
Thank you, Adela. I hope we are all able to see the presentation so that we move together.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So basically, like Kafiti have said, we run a human resource organization by the name Smart People HR Services. We deal with recruitment, we do trainings, we do staff outsourcing, payroll management, and we also do career guiding. At the end of this session, these are the takeaways that we are going to go with. Number one, we are going to be in a position to understand what interviews are. Then the traits through which candidates are judged. Basically, when we sit on the other end as the interviewers, what are we looking at? Then also we'll be able to tell about the nonverbal mistakes that we make. Also the common mistakes and how we can avoid these common mistakes. How to make a great first impression, because first impression is very important when it comes to interviews. Then Kafiti will take us through how to answer the interview questions and articulating your qualifications. We are hoping if we have enough time, we'll also have a role play, which also will be done by Kafiti and one of you. I will share these notes with Angela, so you don't have to take the notes because I also want you to concentrate so that if there are any questions that you need to ask, it becomes easy for you. What is an interview? Maybe I should pose this question to you first before I tell you what it is. Hello? Can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay. So I would like a volunteer to tell us what interviews are. What do you think it is, in your own words?
An interview is a formal meeting between your employer and yourself so that they be able to know who you are, what you can be to their company, and yeah, just to get to know you more. That's what I believe an interview is.
Thank you. Someone else?
I can say an interview is a way of assessing the suitability of a candidate for a role or yes, I'll say that.
Thank you very much. So I think they have answered the question actually correctly, because this is an opportunity to meet your recruiters or employers and show why you are qualified to fill a vacant position, despite many other candidates who have been invited. I would like to say that when I'm invited for an interview, this is the time for me to sell myself. What do I have? Whom am I? Because I know by this time they already have my CV. So it's basically a meeting for me to showcase what I have. Then you can also say it's a conversation between a potential employer and a candidate. I think that's what Angie has told us. Then we're going to go through the traits which candidates are judged. Most of the time when people are invited for an interview, I find this question with many people because everybody would like to know, how am I being judged? What is this recruiter looking at? And I have picked the top 5 of what we look at by the time we invite you for an interview. Number 1, we look at your personal characteristics. What do I mean by this? By this, I mean we are looking at, is this person honest? How is your integrity? Is it questionable? Because each and every employer would like to work with people who have the best characteristics. Then the next thing is your self-expression. How do you express yourself? These are things that you're not able to get by just going through your CV. So when we meet you, we want to see your way of expression, because this tells us how you're going to be expressing yourself when we are working with you on day-to-day basis. Then our number 3 is maturity. This is a very wide word when we talk of maturity. And it is a very important characteristic when, a trait when we are interviewing. I'm sure you have seen an area whereby someone says, you're not able to handle this because you're not mature enough. This does not mean maturity in terms of your age. It means how you are able to handle issues. Then our number 4 trait is your personality. And when we talk about personality, this is about how is this person? Nobody would like to work with someone who is dull. We all want to work with people who are jovial, people whom we are able to interact with. So that is very important. And for personality, it depends with your career. Because if I'm looking for a customer service person, I expect this person to be a bubbly person, as opposed to when I'm looking for a technical person. If I'm looking for a technical person, the characteristics cannot be the same. So the personality of someone who is in customer service and the personality of someone who is in technical service cannot be the same. So basically on this one, I coach candidates based on their particular position that they are applying for in their career. Then of course, we have the experience, years of experience, and this doesn't have necessarily to be at work, because I'm sure there is someone asking, I have just finished university. How do you get my experience? How do you think we get this? Anybody who can guess or who knows how we go about the experience? Yes, Samuel.
Thank you. I think depending on the role, you'd look at relevant, probably voluntary engagements that they've had before.
Yes.
That can reflect on skills gained that are useful for that particular role.
Correct. Thank you, Samuel, for that. If you do not have any work experience, and for example, you have been volunteering in church, say I have done accounting, I have gone for an interview in accounts, but at some point I volunteered to be the accountant in church. Or rather, maybe we have a family business and I have been doing sales. I have been assisting my parents to do the sales. That is also experience that is counted when it comes to the interviews. And that's why we encourage young people, if you have an opportunity to volunteer in church, please do. If you have an opportunity to practice something, even if not at workplace, please do it. If you can be able to volunteer in an organization, I know like now we're in tough times and many companies are actually retrenching. They are not hiring. And I have seen quite a number of the clients who come to us. They're coming to us to tell us, I have a manpower of say 300 people and I want to be left with 100 people. So what do I do with my career during this time? I encourage people to, as much as they can, you can volunteer in any work. Is it in community? Is it in church? Is it in family businesses? Or is it in attachment? Yes, I have 10 years of experience, but does it help when I have a gap of, say, for example, a whole 1 year? So that is about experience. And to the youth, I hope you're doing quite a lot when it comes to experience from your end. Then the other one is career goals. You might not have a single experience, but again, when an interviewer asks you, what are your goals? We are able to tell where you are headed and what you're going to gain. Like, for example, if I ask you, what are your goals in the next 5 years? And maybe one person will tell me, my goal is to get a job and, such. But then someone else will tell me, my goals in life is to, then you can list, like for me, quite a number of things that you want to achieve, of course, which are achievable. There's a very big difference between the first person who has just maybe one goal in life, like maybe just to get a job and life continues, than the other one who has quite a number of goals that they want to achieve. Then we're going to go into interview mistakes that we should avoid. And I threw this question again back to you, and I would like 2 or 3 people to tell us the mistakes that we need to avoid when we are attending the interviews. It doesn't have to be right. Anything that you think could be a mistake when you're attending an interview. Yes, Stephen?
Having fake papers.
Yes. Someone else? Anything you can think of, like a mistake. Yes, Susan?
Avoid arriving late.
Thank you. Melvin?
Maybe I'd say like when they ask you why you chose the company, maybe you say like maybe the amount of money they're offering as one of the reasons, as the major reason.
Yes, you're right. I just picked a few. We are not in a position. Yes, Letitia, sorry. I can see your hand up.
Yeah, we should also avoid seeing and overseeing your salary bracket. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I picked a few, but we cannot exhaust these 3. Number 1 is not letting your guards down. How do you dress for an interview? By the time someone is getting into an interview room, I am sure even before you talk to them, there's something that you see. And this is not because they're talking, but basically when I look at someone, you're able to judge. And when you're choosing your dress code for the day, we go for the dull colors. Avoid flowers, avoid shouting colors. So just make sure that you are in colors that are not very shouting, like blacks, gray, and blues. You can break it with white or something, but just make sure you're not putting on something that is very shouting. Then you'll find that nowadays, most of the interviews, we are not doing them face-to-face like we used to do them before, of course, because of the COVID and the season that we are in. So you'll find that most of the time we use the virtual, like the way we are having this meeting today. So in this particular case, you should avoid any distractions. This is including noise. You should be in a quiet place. And we have a whole slide on discussing that, so I will not go into details in that. Then lack of video etiquette. when you're doing the virtual interviews. Then reading notes while answering interview questions. Most of the time when interviewers ask you to take them through their CV, which is a question that we like using, we'll tell you, please take us through your CV. I find quite a number of people picking their CV and taking you through word to word on what they have written. This should not be the case. You should never refer to your notes when you're being interviewed. And how do you go about this? You should make sure before the interview date, you have gone through your CV, because we find quite a number of people, they do not know how to prepare their CVs. I'm hoping maybe we can have another session on how to do a preparation of a CV. So you'll have like a recruiter to document it for you. Then you give it to the organization and you're not quite sure what was written there. So just make sure you have gone through your CV. Make sure anything that you have written there, you're able to explain. In a way that when someone asks you to take them through the CV or your achievements, you are able to talk without referring to the documents. Then the other thing is not doing your research about the company. The first thing that you should do the minute you are invited for an interview is to do a research on the organization. It is very easy nowadays. You just need to type the name of the organization and it brings you quite a lot of things, because nowadays, most of the organizations, they have their websites. If not website, you can go to LinkedIn and probably try and check if there's anything that has been posted there. You can get this information through the newspapers. But nowadays, the best way of getting about an organization is through the website, through online, which is very available to us, especially for the youth, because we are very much well when it comes to searching and having our gadgets on. And the things that you should research about the organization. Number one, when you're interviewed for an interview, make sure you know where you're going for that interview. Where is the company located? Do they have other branches? How long will it take me if I am going for this interview from where I am coming from to where I'm going for this interview? And you can tell all these things using Google. At the same time, make sure you understand, even if not fully, what this organization does. If it's a service organization, what are they doing? If they're selling products, what are their products? Have I used their products? If not, at least get a bit of knowing what the company does. Then the other thing is being overconfident or lack of it. Most of the time, when you don't have confidence, you cannot articulate what you want to tell the interviewer. So it is very important for you to practice this, because it comes in handy when now you're presenting yourself and you're selling yourself. Then the last one is assuming that the recruiter or the employer knows your background. Yes, the employer has gone through your CV, probably not once, twice, but by the time you get there, they have forgotten everything about you. So if you're told by the recruiter to take them through your CV, don't assume that they know everything about you. So just take them through in not like in a detailed way, but at least what you have put in your CV, you should not assume that they know. So just make sure you explain very well to the recruiter. In our previous slide, we have seen that nowadays people are doing interviews through online, and that's why we put this particular slide. And because we have been doing so many meetings, especially like in church, we do Zoom meetings, we do Microsoft Teams. Most recruiters or employers, they are doing interviews from start to end through Zoom, through Microsoft Teams, and many other ways that we can do online. So you'll find you might fail your interview, not because you're not good enough, but because you did not give it the best when it comes to doing it online. Number one, you need to try and do a trial run before the interview. Check if everything is okay. How do I get access? How is the gadget that I'm using able to do the meeting? Like, for example, in business world, we are so much used to Microsoft Teams. Yet you'll find in our church setup, in our school setup, most people use Zoom. So you have to learn in advance, how do I use Microsoft Teams? How do I share documents? How do I go about it without distracting the person who is interviewing me? Then the next thing is how to set up your camera and any headset or microphone ahead of time. I have realized for the young people, I think apart from Angie and Elder, the rest of you, we cannot even see your faces. So you can imagine if someone is interviewing you and they're not able to see you. So your photo should be on. Then you should make sure that people are not passing behind the camera, because you'll find most of the time we do these interviews at home. There are kids at home. There is noise. There is everything else. So just make sure you don't need to like get an office at home, but just make sure your camera faces the wall and not the other way around. Then make sure your background is tidy. You can choose a wall in your room or in your house whereby there is nothing much behind you. Then very important, you need to dress professionally for the interview. It doesn't mean because you're being interviewed at home, you attend the interview in a night dress or in a t-shirt. You need to go back to our first page and see, how should I dress for an interview? Even if it is putting on a suit and a tie, this is an interview like any other, only that we are not meeting face to face. So you should ensure that you dress appropriately even on the screens. Then very important, you should also avoid making hand gestures, because this again might distract the person who is interviewing you, and they might not be able to get what you're saying. So over to the team, maybe I would like to hear from you why you always remove the photos, because I can see only Angie and Elder who are visible. Angie, would you like to answer on their behalf? At least your camera is on.
Can we have some random feedback as well from the participants?
Anyone willing to share why their cameras are off? And if when they have interviews, do they put it on, or how do they go about it? Angie, I think you still have to represent the team.
One of the reasons why I keep my camera on is so that it's an interactive conversation, and so that they have a view of how I look in a professional manner. Yeah, those are the two reasons why.
Mm-hmm. So my question to the youth is, why is yours always off? Because every time I have a meeting with youth or with young people, their cameras are off. Okay, so from today onwards, when you have any official meeting, please make sure your camera is on, especially if it is an interview or a business meeting. It is very, very important. Very, very important. Then very interesting, and I think this is what most people are waiting for, is the common mistakes that we do during interview and how we can avoid this. Our number one common mistake is not asking questions or asking the wrong questions. You'll find most of the time at the end of the interview, the interviewer will always ask you, do you have any question for the panel? And most people will say, no, thank you. That's a very big mistake. You should always plan ahead of the interview the kind of questions that you would like to ask. And one of the questions that you should never ever ask when you ask if you have any question is, how much are you paying for this position? Unless that question comes from the person interviewing you, it should not come up during the very first interview. Because you'll find during the first interview, we want to meet you, we want to know you. If we select you, now that's when now we call you again, maybe for the negotiation. So you should never be the first person to ask about the salary, because it will look as if your only interest in this job is to get my salary and go home. Well, that's the case with most of us, but for the employer, that's the last thing they would like to hear from you. So just make sure when you're given a chance to ask a question, you don't start with utanilipa ngapi, you know. Then again, you should not ask a question that a company cannot be comfortable answering. Like, for example, if you're given a chance to ask a question, then you ask a question like, what do you intend to do with the organization within the next 5 years? Or what are the strategies that you have laid for the organization? That's a very personal question for a company. Just like the way someone can ask you, why are you not married? Or when do you intend to get married? So that's a wrong question to ask at that particular time, because you'll find some of this information, we refer them as private information for the organization. And mostly it is shared within the board during the meetings, or maybe with the employees, because they have to align themselves to the goals of the organization. I'm sure you're asking, so what should we ask about? Before your interview date, make sure you learn about the organization. And maybe if there's something that you came across when you are going through the organization, say, for example, about a certain product. You can ask about a product. By the way, I came across this product. How does it work? That way, the person interviewing you will see that you have interest in what they are selling. Another question that you can ask is, out of the items that you put on your job description, which one is the most important for this position? So that way the interviewer is in a position to tell, this person is actually aligned to our goals, because this person has even gone ahead to go through the job description, and they are even interested in knowing, out of this list of 10 roles that you have assigned, which one is the most important? Then the other one is being angry or irritable during interview. Sometimes we ask you specific questions just to see how you react when you're angry. I'm sure maybe one of you have ever attended an interview. Then someone asks you a question and you feel this is a very personal question. Why are they asking? We do that with purpose. We do that to see how you can handle a situation when you're angry or when you are irritated. How do you go about it? Are you able to calm down in such a situation? Are you able to work with a team when you are angry? So that's why you'll find most of the time, employers will ask you that question. And the minute you get angry or you get irritated, that's what they want to see in you. So just make sure you don't take it personal, and you know this is just an interview question like any other, and they want to see how I can react during the interview. Then the other one is inappropriate behavior during interview, like flirting. This is like a behavior that is not even acceptable during when you're working. So you'll find if you get into an interview room, and you'll find nowadays you're getting managers who are younger than you. So maybe you go for an interview and you find a very young lady, then you start flirting. So that's an inappropriate behavior that we should never do when we are doing an interview. Then the other one is failing to show up. Sometimes we are invited for an interview, then we go online and we check and we are like, you mean this company is actually somewhere in Nyamakema? I don't want to work there. So you basically do not show up. You don't send a regret saying that you're not going, and time has been allocated. Panel has planned and organized, and they have gone through your CV and prepared to interview you. You'll find that nowadays most companies are not using direct interviewing the way they used to do, yet they use recruitment companies. So you might find today I am recruiting for, say, Shah and Sons. Tomorrow I'm recruiting for Safaricom. Do you think I will call you again if I call you for another interview and you did not show up? Definitely no. So it is very important. Sometimes something comes up when you have been scheduled for an interview. Sometimes maybe you feel, I do not want to even attend that interview, I'm not feeling well. So the best thing, if you're not showing up, is to call or even do it in writing and say, I am sorry, you invited me for this interview, but due to this and that, I am not able to attend. That way the person interviewing you will understand, and they might call you for another position when it comes up. Then the other one is appearing disinterested. By the time you are attending an interview, you should be in a position to feel part of that organization. But if you go for an interview and they're asking you a question and they feel like you are actually forced to come for this interview, someone applied for you, then you got an invite and you came. So you have no interest at all. So that one, basically, if you're not interested, if you show as if you're not interested, I don't think most of us continue with that. We just drop it and go to the next person. Then the other one is sharing too much information. Nobody wants to ask you a question, then you answer that one question in 1 hour. Yet maybe the time they had allocated is 30 minutes. So just be brief, talk about the professional area, the career area, and specifically what you have been asked. Don't be asked about, like for example, if you asked, tell us about yourself. Then you go back to, I grew up in Muranga. This is what I was doing when I was young. I think at this particular point, the interviewer is not interested in your personal life, but in your professional life. So you just ignore anything that is not important or something that is not important to the panel. Then the nonverbal mistakes that we make, I think someone had mentioned our number one. The first one is not being punctual. When you're invited for any interview, if you're told to be there by 11, please be there 10 minutes or 15 minutes before. Why do you need to arrive before? You need to arrive before because you need to get there. You don't want to get there, then pop, you're inside the boardroom. Then you don't even know where to start. You're feeling so out of place. So I always advise people to get there before time. Then once you get there, you'll have a time to sit down, relax, confirm that you have everything, reconfirm. This is because I tend to believe that you had done this before. Then you can also know the kind of organization it is by just observing people. How are people talking here? How is the movement? You know, it is very important for you to be there before time. And in case you are late, what will come to the interviewer's mind? This one, even if I hire this person, they will be coming to work late. So there is no need of me wasting time. Then I will end up firing this person. So that is very, very important. And that's why I have put it as number one. Then the other one is not having the eye contact or too much of it. I have been in a panel whereby you're talking to someone and there is no eye contact at all. This is something that you have to practice until it is perfect. Because it should not be too much, yet again, you cannot have no eye contact at all. So you need to practice this. You can even tell your sister or your whoever you are close with, can you check, I'm attending an interview tomorrow, can I present to you and tell me if I'm doing it the right way? Then the other one mostly applies to us ladies. You are in an interview room, you are being interviewed, then this is the time you are adjusting your hair, it's the time you are remembering, I needed to do my eyes, I needed to fix my earrings. You should never make that mistake. Then the other one is the posture. And basically how to position yourself. You have entered into a room and it's a big boardroom and the panel is seated on this other end. Assume you have like 3 people. Where do I sit? Do I sit at the end or do I sit where basically should I sit? You should sit across opposite the panel. At the same time, you should make sure you pick the center chair in a way that you're not facing just one person, but you can make the eye contact to the 3 people who are interviewing you. When it comes to posture, you should make sure that you sit upright. Don't swing the chair. Just sit the way we normally sit in the class. Then lack of facial expression. If you are interviewing a customer service person, or rather say a receptionist or a salesperson, and this person does not even smile, not even the slightest, I think the assumption will be this person will be receiving visitors or going to the market, yet they cannot even smile. So you need to make the right facial expression. Then the other one is odd attire. I think we have discussed this. We have agreed on the colors to put on. Don't put on shouting colors. Just use the consecutive colors, that is the blacks, the grays, and the blues. Then the other one is crossing your arms. When you sit and you cross your arms, or when you're talking to someone and they are crossing their arms, how do you feel? Maybe someone else apart from the ones who have answered. If I come to your house or I have a meeting with you and I'm crossing my arms, how would you feel? I think this time around, let's not wait for Angela to respond on our behalf. Susan, how would you feel?
I'd feel humiliated or criticized.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I would feel as if I am not welcome. You're not free to talk to me. And that's exactly the same way an interviewer feels. It's like you have put a block on me. So you should sit comfortably. If you're not sure of where to place your hands, just put them under the table. but the best thing should be on the table and don't cross them. Then the last one, which is very common with young people, is chewing a gum. You should never walk into an interview room when you're chewing a gum. Our next slide is on how to make a first impression. And this is something that has been proven. When I saw this data at first, I was shocked because I thought when I'm invited for an interview, what matters a lot is how I speak and the words that I speak. But as you can see on these statistics, only 7% that count to the spoken words. Only 7%. The tone of your voice, it is 38%. The highest percentage is on the body language. Is that not interesting? Very interesting. So the body language matters a lot because by the time I'm inviting you for an interview, I have already gone through your CV. I can actually tell everything about you through that CV. So by me inviting you to come and talk, I'm not really interested in the words that you're speaking. I want to see your reactions. I want to see how are you dressed? How do you articulate yourself? So that's why it is very, very important, despite you sending the CV and despite you being called for an interview, because you being called for an interview means that they have seen your CV and your CV is interesting. But does it match what you have put on the CV? How do we make a great first impression? We need to dress professionally, prepare extensively. I think these two we have covered in a previous slide. You need to prepare your documents well. Make sure you have gone through your documents and you can answer all the questions that you have put on your CV. Then bring only what you need. Sometimes when we are interviewing, I ask someone, I would like to see maybe your university degree. And by the time they give you that one document, it has taken them like a whole 15 minutes because they carried everything, including their birth certificates, any paper they found in that cabinet. So you should only bring what is important during the interview. Then the phone etiquette, you'll find that most of the time when we are called, you just see a number you don't know and you assume, wanitala wananitafuta. So you even answer, even before you answer, you're like, wrong number. And you'll find with the true caller nowadays, you can even tell. By the time someone is calling you, sometimes it will come as a HR manager or it will come as a recruiter. So when you're called, you should answer your phone in an official way. Hello, my name is Anne. How may I help you? By that time, the person calling you does not even need to ask, am I calling so-and-so? You have already answered that question and you look so organized. Then very important, you should have your documents neat and easily accessible. The other day I was interviewing someone and they came with their documents in a paper bag. And this is someone who is coming for a sales position. What does that tell you? This person, when you send them to the customer, they will not be able to represent you well. We all need to buy document organizers. We can get them at the bookshops, whereby you slide in your documents inside and make sure you start with what needs to be on top is your CV. Your CV needs to be on top. Then your highest qualification follows in that order. So if you have, say, for example, you have master's, then you have a degree, you have a professional certificate, your high school certificate, and all that. The CV need to be on top, followed by your professional certificate. Say, for example, for accountants, or rather a lawyer or a HR, we have what we call the certifications for our careers. So that should follow immediately after your CV. Then your highest qualification, if it is a degree or a diploma, that's what should be number 3. Then the rest now follows that order. In a way that if you give it to the person who is interviewing you, they're just able to peruse and very easily they can follow your documents. Then find and make a connection with the interviewers. Sometimes, especially when you are invited by, say, for example, the CEO, you'll find for the recruiters and the HR, most of the time we go so much into details in terms of your career. But when you're meeting the CEO or a manager, they just want to see, can we connect? Can I work with this person? So make sure there is that connection, and you cannot have that connection if you have not done a good research on the organization. So that is also very, very important. A summary of that is what we have on the other side. Do not be too late or too early. I think I gave you the timings. Don't arrive at 12 and your interview is at 2. Just be there 15 minutes before time. Be nice to everyone. You'll find that sometimes after the interviews, we go back and ask, how are the candidates? Maybe to the receptionist or to the security people. You might be the first person during the interview and you score very high, but the minute the interviewers find out that maybe you are rude to the receptionist or maybe to the askaris, we throw away your CV. So that is very important. Then a firm handshake is very important. Nowadays, we are not doing that because of COVID. We are hoping this COVID will end. So when it's back, make sure when you are greeting the interviewers, make sure your hand is firm. And also make small talks. Small talks are very important. When you go to the receptionist and you have enough time to talk, just make sure you do small talk. I will hand over to Mr. Kafiti to take us through the personal interview questions and the rest of the slides. Thank you very much.
Hi. Are you still there?
Yes.
Hello.
Okay, still following?
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, as it were, we are dealing with the interview, and this should actually have been the second session because the interview assumes that you have been invited for an interview, and Sarah has taken you through how it all comes about. But maybe the point that we have not yet arrived at is, the point we have not yet dealt with, or we should have dealt with earlier, is how do you even get your CV to count for the interview? Because there are times you send so many CVs, and the only thing you have is a pile of regret. So maybe then, God willing, if God will give us time, next session when we shall have a time, we shall discuss about how to prepare an award-winning CV. Or and the award we are talking about here is securing an interview spot. Generally, like Sarah has been saying, when you find yourself on an interview seat amongst 10 or other people, all those people can do the job. By the time the interviewers are shortlisting a CV and putting it on the panel, they are actually admitting that this person is a candidate who is valid, and this person can do the job if given a chance. So your primary purpose in that panel is to sell yourself. You have a chance to make a personal pitch. You have your key business is actually outshining the other people. How you have been shortlisted as 5 people. You have been invited for the interview. Only 1 person is required. Some people even go to an extent of asking 10 candidates, all of which, according to the CVs, are qualified for the job. But they want somebody to shine and beat the others and clean the goal. So your business should be to outsmart everyone else. So you must be ready to stand out. So how do you get to stand out? This is what now we are talking about. Personal interview questions. So the main tips here is match your responses with the job and the company. Many a times you'll be asked questions. Any question that you're being asked is an opportunity to market yourself. When they ask you about, tell us about yourself, as Sarah had clearly said, don't tell them about your mountaineering expeditions. They are not interested unless it is a camping company that is recruiting. Don't tell them about your prowess in agriculture, and you are looking for a job as a receptionist in a hotel. So basically, we are saying is that whatever response you give, let it match the employer's interests. What is the employer interested in? If he's looking for a watchman, show them your muscles, how you can be able to clobber a thug. I mean, let your responses meld or gel with the expectation of the employer. By and large, this should not even be told, but let your answers be honest. This is a conundrum. First of all, you're supposed to tie your questions to the company's interest and at the same time be honest. That can be a challenge because not every company you will find is relevant to your experience or to your history. But the moment you try cooking stories, that's how you so easily make a fool of yourself. So by all means, let your answers be honest. You can always be able, if you're creative and this is what you're expected to be at such a time, try to tie your honesty with to make your honesty relevant to the position. Again, it's not always that you are the one being interviewed. When you go for an interview, you are also interviewing the circumstances. I mean, the position. You are also interrogating the position. Because most of the times you're already working, and you're looking to make a reap or to better your position. But there are many times you jump from the frying pan into the fire. So in the course of this conversation, we started by asking, what is an interview? An interview is an opportunity for you to meet the would-be employer. So it is not just the employer who is meeting you, you are also meeting the employer. So by and large, as much as you're being interviewed, use the opportunity to interview the environment, to interview the position. You can meet somebody and clearly this is not a person you can work with. We have said in one of the mistakes that you can make in an interview is to flirt with the other party. But ladies, sometimes you go for these interviews and you find that the employer is the one flirting with you. So again, you can tell that this is a horrible situation. It's not a position you want to be interested in. So that is saying, use the questions to determine if the job is really what you are looking for. Because hapa tunatafutana, the employer is looking for a good employee and you are also looking for a good employment. Do not let the employer satisfy themselves at your expense. By the time the employer, whatever the employer is looking for, make sure that you have also used that opportunity to carefully interrogate the situation, the position, and find out, if the position also matches your goals. So in this situation, tell about yourself. Tell about yourself the kind of questions you asked. That is an opportunity for you to outshine your other people. When you ask to tell them about yourself, if you have done your due diligence, you already know what the employer is looking for. They are looking for an accountant. So this is the time you start pouring all your best accounting etiquettes, or your best accounting experiences, where you thought that you scored a goal. This is the point now you sell your merchandise, and the merchandise on sale that day is yourself and your experience. So when you're told to tell us about yourself, and you are looking for sales. This time you talk about how you grew sales in your previous employment, how you met target 19 out of 10 after the 20 months that you worked, how you you always exceeded your target. This is the time you pour out that kind of a thing. Then when you ask what motivates you, yeah, you can imagine in a situation you are looking for a job as a as a salesperson, and what you asked, what motivates you, and some says good food. Of what value is good food to the employer in this respect? But you can see somebody else who comes and says, what motivates you? And for me, what drives me is meeting goals. What motivates you? It's exceeding targets. So if you are the employer and you have those two candidates, it's a no-brainer. You don't even have to think. It comes up naturally. Then describe your typical week. Yeah, this again, of course, what is this person looking for? This person wants to see your personal organization. How are you able to organize your day? Can you be able to explain how you run your day? Meaning that, do you have a sense of order? Do you have a sense of time? So when you are answering, you are responding to this question, it must bring out your rich sense of order. It must bring out your time consciousness. It must bring out your sense of punctuality. You're looking what you're trying to second guess your employer. What is he looking for? And then this is point to sell. Then you ask, what is your greatest strength? Again, those are the kind of questions that now give you a very wide room, an open check for you to pitch for your best abilities, knowing that you have 5 or 10 other candidates who will sit on the same seat that you are sitting on, and they'll have an opportunity to put their apples for sale. So this is the time you flow. This is time you excel in your communication, so that in the course of that discussion, the employer is able to tell that you are a punctual person, you have a sense of order, you are an effective communicator, because you have actually been able to tell your story in not so many words. Answering interview questions. In the course, sometimes or more often than not, like we are talking about how you evaluate the candidates. Only 8%, according to that data, has to do with what you're saying. So in an interview, more or less, if the question is not more of what as it is how. So when you're being asked a question, the employer wants, beside the answer, they want to see how did you respond to it. So, like, if you did not get the question clearly, ask the employer to repeat. So why is this important? The employer realizes that you are confident, that you will not just cow and go and do your own things when you have not gotten exactly what you should be doing. The other thing is that the employer gets the feeling of see that you are a person who pays attention to details, because as they say, the devil is always in the details. So when you are asked a question, when you do not get correctly what the question is asking about, don't fear to ask them, the interviewer to repeat. Don't fear to ask for the employer to clarify the point, because you might ask an ambiguous question or a too general question. So ask them to structure to structure the question so that you're able to respond with details. Then when you ask a question, a direct question calls for a direct answer. Don't become the interviewer within the interview. When you ask a question, don't create other questions and start responding to them. Respond to the question that has been asked to you. If it's a direct question, give a direct answer. If it is a structured question, give a structured response. And in so doing, let your intellect show. Let the flow of your thoughts harmonize, so that by the time you are done with answering the question, the employer has not only gotten the answer, but they have got an opportunity to see the flow of your intellect, to see the flow of your thought, to see your communication skills, Yeah, because as you said earlier, remember you are doing a sale, and the sale is the candidate. So by the time you are rising from that seat, the employer should be convinced that they had a worthy candidate on the table. Again, be audible. Yeah, this has something to do with what Madam Sarah had started by saying, had said earlier. Much of the communication sometimes here is not even done by words. It's done by your posture, your body language, your gestures, your facial expressions. So the audibility here is not necessarily on words, but let all the all the communication facets that are at play on that particular moment be on point, so that whatever you're saying, sometimes the employer is listening to what you're not even saying. That by your body language or by your expressions, even what you're not saying comes out, and that's what the employer by and large is trying to pick. Be confident in answering questions. Of course, confidence is the only thing that cannot be discounted in these kind of scenarios. It doesn't matter how qualified you are. If you don't have the confidence, you will ruin your qualifications. It doesn't matter how well dressed you are. If your confidence does not match your dress code, then your dress code is in vain. So confidence is the wrapping paper. It's actually the ribbon that ties, or I mean, the gift package that you're presenting that day. So your confidence must be above average. Again, without, or rather, guarding against the risk of appearing overconfident. I've seen somebody somewhere right, looked confident, but it could be a facade. So somebody thinks that you're making it up, or you are high on something. You just had to boost that moment. So measure your level of confidence. Let it not be intimidating. Let it not look like it is made up. Be real. Be confident, but at the same time, be real. Maintain your mien. Maintain your, for lack of a better word, play cool. Articulating your qualifications. Yeah, there are some things that are very difficult to do at sometimes, because when you say you're a CPK, you probably have no way of demonstrating it easily within the short 10, 20, 30, 40 minutes that you may be interviewed. So you got to be sharp. You got to choose how best to bring out that you're a CPK. If you're a lawyer, you are not going to articulate all the legal thesis that you know in a 10-minute session. So you need to be choosy, but you need to be tactical at the same time. And that's why we have given a nice example of the STAR. Yeah, choose a situation, choose a task or a challenge that you dealt, the action plan, and the result. So get a few case studies or case scenarios whereby you can be able to relate, and in so doing, let it be understood by all and sundry that you know your subject, you know your marketing, you know your accounting, you know your engineering. So choose a few case studies that you're able to demonstrate what you're capable of in 5 minutes, and be able to tell the story. We have given that graph of prepare. You must have prepared. Listen carefully to the employer or the interviewer. Think of an event, because these things you have to have got the money. It's unlikely that you can cook it up at that point. So I'm saying have like 3, 4, 5 case studies that you work with, so that depending on the question, you are able to tailor any of them to be able to give the situation, show the task that the challenge that was at hand, the action, how you dealt with it, and the results. If you saw me one, you are again showing that you are organized, it's showing that you are tactical, it's showing that you are strategic, and you can be depended on to deal with the situations that come, and even things that just emerge from any rabbit that jump from the back pocket, you'll be able to handle. Are we together?
Yes, we are together.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Next point, I see our time is running short. The next item we are looking at is the way forward. As a result of everything that we have said, or to bind everything that we have been saying, always practice the most common interview questions. Tell us about yourself. A very general question, always very challenging to a lot of people, but one that you can tailor to score a lot of marks. One that you can tailor to, by preparing. By preparing, one that you can always structure that in those 5 minutes that you're given to tell about yourself, you will have sold yourself. You're not just telling about yourself, you'll have marketed yourself. Do a mock interview. Ask your boyfriend or your girlfriend to interview you, to take you through an interview. So you run through what would be an interview so that you are able to rehearse your answers, to perfect those answers, to sharpen them, and so that when you sit on the interview seat, you are simply like you're on a stage acting, because you have gone through that. Make sure your CV is up to date. Like Madam Sarah was telling you, this is your CV. Unless it has been made for you, you should be knowing it word for word. So when you are being asked to take us through your CV, you actually don't even need to look at it. You can be able to tell, yeah, this is what you scored in high school, this is what you scored in, this is what you did in college, these are the diplomas you have. Majority of you are just beginners, you don't have so much long work experience, but you can say, yes, I volunteered here, I worked for this and this, I did the elections, those short jobs that we always get ourselves doing. I did the census, enumerate that, and you can remember the dates without even referring to your papers. It shows that once you have a cognitive mentality, you are sharp, you are still switched on, and you are capable of picking and running with anything that is thrown at you. Again, this you have been told, research of the company, the culture, the products, get to know what exactly the company does, get to know particularly the good news about the company. Of course, every company has had its low moments. You don't need to tell them that I know that you are sued for environmental degradation. You don't need to tell them that, I know you are retrenching, or you have retrenched people, or your company is being accused of sexual harassment or whatever, even if that is in the public domain. So when you're talking about the company, tend to delve on their positive side. I know you have a very strong CSR, you are supporting this and this slum in Mukuru Kwajenga or wherever. Tell them about what you think they need to hear, they want to hear, the interest you have in the company on the positive side. So show that you know about the company, and what you know about the company should be their good news. The profit has risen by 20%. They are launching new products. They are now the market leaders in this and this sector. That kind of information. Make sure you research widely. Think of an interview as an audition, as we started by saying. Think of an interview as a competition. Yeah, so you are out to outdo others, and you're out to sell yourself, and you're out not to make a fool of yourself at the same time. So within a very measured attitude, within a very measured contour, do what can stand above the others, and knowing that all the others are probably as qualified or even more qualified. Know your weaknesses and see how to suppress them. Know your strengths, and know how to blow them out or exaggerate them if need be without looking funny. And in so doing, leave an impression. Leave an impression that is positive. Leave an impression that is progressive. Give them a reason to want to talk to you again, by and large. And with that, I think we have just run through. We give you very little time for interaction, and maybe now we can, if there is time, we can deal with a few questions. in which case now we shall have an interactive session. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I believe you can hear me now.
Yes.
Yeah, so I just wanted to thank you, and I'm also very grateful that you've alluded to a second session of how to prepare your CV. I'm sure Angela has noted that with a lot of excitement. So we have 2 questions already from the audience, and we still have more. So I think we'll start with Edwin's question. Sarah talked about eye contact, keeping an eye contact during the interview. So Edwin asks, how do we really discern too much eye contact? How do you balance the eye contact?
That's a good question. When we talk of balancing the eye contact, that's why we talked of you really need to practice this in front of a camera or in front of someone, because when you are too much in having the eye contact, you appear so, do I say, you are intimidating the panel. But again, when it is not there, you look like a shy person. So if, for example, you have a team of 3 interviewing you, don't have your eyes on one. Just have eye contact maybe with the first one, then you can shift to the other one, you know, such, but don't make it too much on one person. But these you have to really, really practice.
Yeah, thank you. I know that's normally a difficult one, even for the panelists who are interviewing the candidates. Yeah, sometimes they even have to take a break to think what's happening here. But anyway, thanks for that. So Linda has 2 questions.
Let me add something little on that.
Sure.
Yeah, when we're talking about the eye contact again, as when you're dealing with a panel, at any given time, make sure that your eye contact is with the person who is talking to you. And now when it is your turn to talk, now you can distribute your eye contact with the panelists. Address the panel, not an individual. But when somebody is asking a question, or when one of the interviewers is asking you a question, maintain your eye contact with that person, because that person want to feel like you are listening, want to feel that you're interested, and want to feel that you're not slighting them, or you're not looking down upon them. So whoever is talking to you, maintain your eye contact. But when you are responding, you're not responding to the person, you are responding to the panel. So to the extent that is practically possible, distribute your eye contact.
Thank you. I think I really like the last point, and this normally happens a lot when you have the HR, the CEO, and maybe your to-be supervisor, and you find the candidates just focusing on the CEO. Every time the CEO talks, they just focus on the CEO and then disregards the other. That already creates a wedge between the other panelists and the candidate. And I think that's what Mr. Kafit is also trying to allude to. So just distribute your eye contact with panelists equally. So I think it gives some level of importance to each and everyone in the panel, right? Okay. So we go to our next question by Linda. So it says, when your job description only allows you a degree and you have masters, can you attach? So basically, can you apply for a job which you personally think you're overqualified?
Okay. That is normally a very common trend. I don't know whether you remember a year or 2 ago when NACMAT had just sunk and Taskcase was the main brand around, and they advertised for internship, and they got over 300 people with masters asking for internship in the supermarket to push carts, and they were at a loss. How do we employ masters to push carts in the supermarket? There is always that issue when you're more qualified than the position. Too many employers, they will shy away because you are not, they do not want to believe that you are sincerely bringing your masters to do some manual work. But so sometimes it's wisdom. If you see that the job being advertised is asking for so little, and you have so much, and you're still interested in the job, limit your qualifications to what the job is asking for. So if what they want is a diploma, and in the course of your education journey, you passed by an institute and picked up a diploma, go with that, so that the employer does not feel like you are overqualified. But once you're in the job and you have done your job well, and you have been confirmed, now you can start unleashing your papers one by one, and eventually eventually the company starts thinking seriously of you. I had a case once with Mount Kenya bottlers. One of their truck drivers was a graduate, and that was a while ago. That's about 20 years ago, in the year 2001. Yeah, 2002, yeah, about there. So one of their truck drivers was actually a guy with a BCom. And the guy did not disclose that he's a graduate at the point when he was seeking the job, because he knew with his BCom he would not be taken for a driver. Then 6 months down the road, the guy unleashes a paper. By the way, I'm this and this. So the MD looks at him, why didn't you tell us? And he was honest. There's no way you would have taken me for a driver if I had shown you this. So immediately, the guy was promoted to be a supervisor, a transport supervisor. And going forward, he became, I think, the transport manager and such. So that's a good question, and that's wisdom. Gauge the opportunity available. Don't intimidate the position by loading so many papers on it. Limit yourself to what the position is asking, and then once you're in, you can see how to play ball. Thank you.
Thank you. Another wonderful answer to the question. So Linda has one more question, and it says, when you're given an opportunity to maybe say your last, like if you interview with the UN, I think they have an opportunity where you're given time to shine. So at that particular point in time, is it okay to say, I will be an asset to the company?
Come up with the question again.
Is it okay to say, I will be an asset to the company? Just telling the panelists that I will be an asset to the company.
Oh, yes. That means you're confident in what you're bringing into the organization. That's a plus.
Thank you. So guys, keep the questions coming. Question as we wait for more questions from the panelists.
On that issue of playing your role, I think we started by saying that we started by agreeing that an interview is a marketing session, and you have never had an advert that demeans the product it is advertising. So once you go for an interview, you have gone for a marketing session. It's a pitching session. It's you have been given a chance to sell. It's a selling session. So there is no harm in articulating all your strengths, in using all the superlatives that you know, if you can justify it. And one thing that everyone wants to be sure is that you believe in yourself, you believe in your abilities. So you claiming to be an asset is an expression of your belief in yourself, and it cannot be taken negatively. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. So I think as we wait for some questions from the audience, we have how do you respond honestly to some questions during the interview? For instance, you have been asked something that is beyond your scope. I know it's just good to say, I don't know, but how do you package that so that you are not disadvantaged by saying, I don't know? While knowing that saying, I don't know is also a plus because they are also checking if you're honest.
Very good question. Yeah, you will be asked questions from time to time that you know that you have very little or no information about. And in such a scenario, as it were, it's good to be honest. But you should never be, I don't know can never be an answer. Because that answer in itself is a cake. It's an answer that has been passed by time in this so-called information age. So at this point, so the point is you can own up. You have not experienced that, or you have not had such an experience. However, you should always be able to add that you are a quick learner. You adapt easily. You can easily learn. I mean, you're teachable. You can express your teachability. You can even use a previous experience. When I joined company ABCD, I was not trained in this area, and within 3 months, I was the supervisor in the department. Why? Because I embraced the company. I looked at the challenge of what I did not know. I grasped the opportunity. I faced the challenge head on, and I took it as my personal responsibility to learn, and you can demonstrate that you learned. I remember Minister, this guy, our most senior Kenyan in the UN who has just resigned, Minister Mukisa Kitui, in the first Kibaki government when he was given the trade docket, he says from where he had come from, he knew zero about trade or international trade, and he made it his business. I said that he made it his business to understand the international trade, the World Trade Organization, the UNICTAD and such, all those bodies that govern international trade and fell under the Ministry of Trade. And within the first 3 months, he knew so much that when he led Kenyan delegation to the UNICTAD meeting in Geneva, he was a star. And in fact, that when they picked him, and even then they were asking him to resign to come and head the department. So basically what I'm saying is that if he went for any interview in a different area altogether where he doesn't know, he can demonstrate that when I was picked for this job, I had zero information about it. I took up the challenge. I learned what could be learned. So even if you give me any other job in any other area, I will do as I did before. So I'm saying, don't just say, no, I don't know. You know, those of you don't know and you don't want to know. But there is that element of, yes, I have not experienced that. I have not gone through that. I have not been trained in that. But in this and this area, I was also untrained, but I was able to train within a short time and run with it. So even this, if given a position, I will learn. I am a quick learner and get it done. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a very important part of the interview process, especially when you ask things that are either within your domain or not within your domain. So I think that's a very good way to navigate it. We have 2 more questions from the audience. One from Susan K. Just in case you noticed that you left out something when the interviewer asked you to tell them about yourself, do you just go on, or you can ask them for an opportunity to do so?
Usually, thank you for the question. Is it Susan?
Yes, Susan.
Yeah, usually, yeah, there are times you realize that you probably left out your best point. And it is awkward to keep going back and forth. But in the course of answering the other questions, use your intellect. See where you can tie in that piece of information when responding to another question and bring out the energy that you thought has not been expended. So, I mean, when you're on an interview seat, it's one of those places where you have to think on your feet. Think as you move. So, there are times very strong points that you believe should be communicated will keep flashing in your mind, and it is wisdom to try and place them within the course of the discussion without appearing as if you are going back and forth. Remember, we say this is a marketing session, so you are marketing a sense of order, you are marketing communication ability, you are marketing content, the completeness of the package that is on sale. So it's not just, as you say, it's not just about what, but also about how. How are you communicating everything? So when you realize that there's something that should have come under section 1 and now you are in section 5, do your best to see how it can fit in section 5 and communicate the same information without appearing like you are backpedaling. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So one more very interesting one. I think Sarah had mentioned this about flirting. What do you do when you realize that the interviewer is flirting with you?
Sorry, can I repeat the question again? Copy the question again, please.
So in the case where the interviewer flirts with an interviewee, what do you advise to be done? Or will it be a mistake if they act irritable? So basically, how do you react if you notice that one of the panel members is flirting with you?
Flirting with you. Wow, good and interesting question, yeah?
Yeah, very interesting.
For those of you who are working, I know you know that sexual harassment is not allowed even at workplace. And it is at all workplaces, normally we have a sexual harassment policy. And what I normally advise ladies, this is not only during the interview, but in case of sexual harassment. And nowadays it is happening even to the male employees. And if you go to court, you'll find most of the cases that go to court, they are left by servant, followed by sexual harassment. And most of the time for sexual harassment, the cases normally employees really win. So what I normally advise people on how to go about it is that if someone starts flirting with you, just tell them, I am sorry, I am not comfortable with this. Basically that. If they continue flirting with you, because definitely if I go into an organization and the person interviewing me is the one flirting with me, I don't think that's a place I would like to, to work. So the best thing is to stand firm and say, I'm sorry, I am not comfortable with what you're doing.
Thank you, Sarah. So the precedent that you set will determine how you behave even when you get the job.
And also your dress code, because sometimes you don't want to be harassed, but the way you dress again also exposes you into this. So the dress code is also very important at this point. Make sure you do not expose your body.
Thank you. Another interesting one for you. Which one is better, papers or experience? Keeping in mind how the technology recruitment has changed the recruitment scenario, which one is better? And there's always a debate, diploma guys are better than degree guys. From your experience in the practice, can you talk more about that?
Okay, I think this one is one of the areas where you're dealing with theories more than the realities. Increasingly, other than discussing the papers and the quality of the papers, I think we are at a time when people are now more keen on skills rather than the qualifications. Yeah, it's not a question of how heavy is your heap of papers, as it is, what is it that you can do? And that's why sometimes what we were talking about earlier, the making of the CV is important. If you are a beginner, like most of you are, the youth, the employers are looking at the papers. Where did you go to school? And what did you do in school? Basically that, because you don't have much in terms of experience to show for it. However, as you grow old in your career, the issue of where you went to school and what you did in school starts becoming increasingly important. And the weight of your qualification starts tending towards your experience. So that's why sometimes somebody doesn't just want to know that you worked for Coca-Cola. They want to know what were you doing in Coca-Cola. So you should be able to list all the chores that you are undertaking in Coca-Cola. Somebody should be able to list what were your achievements in Coca-Cola. What is it that you changed or you achieved, or what is it that you actually did? Yeah, what recommendations do you get? What awards were you given in that place? So increasingly the way it tends now to the experience. But now at the beginning, when you are beginning, or at the beginning, beginners. I remember one time when I was in high school, the then British High Commissioner, then he used to be called Sir Simon Hemans. He came to school and gave a lecture, and in his opening remarks, he said, "When you get as old as I am," I'm quoting him, "it really doesn't matter what you got in school." Of course, by then he was talking to people in school, so the issue of us being in school was relevant. So it really doesn't matter what you got in school, but what you have done with what you got in school. But he's quipped, but you got to get those good grades to start you off. So at this point, you guys are starting off. So you need to get your A's to get you started. Because like now, if anybody want to interview anybody in this generation, or what people will be looking at is, where are you in school? What did you score? Because there isn't much else to show for it. So here we are looking at grades. Here you are looking at what is it? Your academic prowess. I have an employer we recruit for who will always tell me, I don't want anybody below a B+. So you got to get those good grades to get you started, but they will not always be as important as you grow old. Now it shifts to, what did you do with your good grades as you went into the job market? So the question of the degree, the diploma, or whatever, it's a dicey question. It's a bit speculative. I would say whatever you got, if it's a diploma, it's a decent diploma. If it's a degree, it's also a strong degree to get you started. But what will be more important is not that you got a first class honors, but what have you done with that first class honors since you got it? Or you got a credit in this degree, this diploma. That is important to start you off, but what have you done with it is what will count as you grow up. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to give an opportunity to the audience. Anyone, if you feel you want to ask a question, please, this is your time. Just unmute yourself and ask. We still have some more minutes left. Anyone who is, you have a burning question, please just unmute yourself and ask the question. Right. So as we wait for anyone with a question, I have an interesting one for you. Now more than ever, the young people are getting senior positions, and you find the old folks are still there, and you are put in charge of the old folks. You're a supervisor of someone of your dad's age. How do you manage that situation without not coming out as very disrespectful when giving your orders, knowing that as a supervisor, as a manager, you also have to be stern and also very respectful, but also keeping culture in mind, the African culture, the young versus the old. How do you navigate through all that process?
Well, very interesting question, but there is somebody who has very good answers for it. Madam Sarah happens to be always the smallest wherever she works, even in terms of her body size.
All right, that would be perfect from experience.
That's a very good question, and sometimes you even be intimidated because of your body size, and probably sometimes, like I became a manager at an age of 26, and it wasn't easy for me because I found people who were already in the organization, and others were twice my age, yet you have become a manager. And I hate our manager for that, for that reason. So you are even sitting down for a disciplinary with someone who is older than you. However, I keep saying the best thing is to position yourself and respect. One of my mentors tells me, the way people will treat you is the way you treat them. If you treat people with respect, they will respect you back. And if someone don't work, as a manager, you don't work to be liked, because for sure, if you are to work to be liked, you'll be fired at the same time. I am that particular person. When it is yes, it's a yes. When it is no, it is a no. Just make sure the way you're doing it the right way. If someone has done something wrong, do not correct this person in public. Make sure you call this person aside and correct them. If someone has done something good, make sure you comment them in public. So for such a particular person, I would advise you to take a lot of management seminars and courses which will guide you, because situations are different. Today, someone will be like harassing you because they feel you're just new here, you're younger than me, yet you're telling me to do this and that. So that one, you really have to do quite a lot of management courses, not really courses, but even the short courses and seminars, like just the way we are doing currently. So do not be intimidated because you are younger, or maybe if you have a small body size, as long as you're doing the right thing. And also make sure you're also not arrogant. You know, sometimes we get these promotions and we feel we are on top of everyone. So just make sure you are respecting others, and that will come back to you. And you're also treating others with you in humility. But again, when someone is right, despite him being maybe twice your age, make sure you're able to stand firm and tell this person, Mr. So-and-so, this is wrong. I hope I have answered your question.
Yes.
Let me add something on that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. More often, it becomes important sometimes to separate yourself from your position. You may be young, but you have what we call the duties and responsibilities. So within the organization, there is a you and there is your duties and responsibilities. So when you're in discharge of your duties and responsibilities, it's really not you, it's your office. And so you should make it clear, absolutely clear, that there is a very bold line between you, the 20-year-old or the 25-year-old, and the supervisor in that position. So when you're talking, there is a time, there is a difference between you, the 25-year-old, and the supervisor, transport department, which you are in charge. So when it is the position that is talking, or when it is when you are discharging your duties and responsibilities, it should never be ascribed to you. It should always be seen in the light of your position. Okay, that's why you'll always be told the management has decided. Okay, so who is the management? It's a faceless, amorphous person. Okay, so the decisions you are taking are the management's position. Just like the government, you'll say, the government position. Who is the government? It is a faceless person. So there must be a time when you act from a faceless, masked position, behind the veil of your position, or behind the veil of your duties and responsibilities. And when you're discharging your duties and responsibilities, nobody should see you. They should see the position that you occupy. You are the HR manager. So the management is taking a decision. It's not you, but it's your position, and in the light of your duties and responsibilities. So what I would advise any young manager is that you should have, I mean, the people you are working with should clearly know your obligations in that organization, that these are my responsibilities and this is what I am in charge of. Therefore, whenever I take duties in the line of my duties and responsibilities, they should be divorced from me. It's not me, the young manager, or the 20-year-old or the 22-year-old. It is the transport manager, it's the transport management that is at work. And these are the policies, the company policies that guide us. So I would advise such a manager, you should have very clear departmental guidelines, the policies that work, so that whenever you are taking decisions, yeah, you even, I remember even how Jesus used to approach some of these issues. What does your law say about these things? So when somebody, you have to deal with issues, you simply point about to the policies. Don't you know the company policy? Don't you know the procedures of being ABCD? So you're actually just discharging your duties and responsibilities, which are divorced from you, irrespective of your size or your age. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. That's very, very, very profound. Separating yourself and your duties. So we have a hand. Angie, go ahead.
I have a question with regards to a company that is noted or seen to be a fast-paced company. Because you see, when you apply for jobs, they say they're a fast-paced company. But when you're in the job and, for example, your boss tells you, or the CEO calls you and tells you, I need this job done, like today at this time, but you have, for example, a load of tasks and something that's also supposed to be handed in within the period the CEO asks you to hand it in. How do you manage such a situation? Do you go back to the CEO and tell him, I'm sorry, I was working on something and it also has a deadline? Or which of the two would you give priority if you are in such a situation?
Okay, thank you for the question. In many organized companies, and I would like to think that a lot of companies are organized, there is what you call the office cadre. So you have the junior cadre, you have the middle management, you have the senior management, you have probably the directors and the CEO, whatever. So in such organizations, you'll find that it's very unlikely that the CEO would address anybody below other than the people who report to him. If you want something done, they will talk to the people next to them, and then it is those people to cascade it down through the channels down to the person. So it's very unlikely that you will have a direct instruction from the MD, because the MD would only talk, for the MD to come down and talk to you, it's like he doesn't have people in between, or he doesn't trust them or whatever. So a professional organization would never have that. So if you found yourself dealing with the MD, and you have like 3 other reporting lines before you get to the MD, then something is amiss. So even before you discharge the responsibility the MD has given you, you should brief your line managers that I have this that has come down from the MD. I don't even understand why it has come down to me without passing through you or through the established cadre. So in every professional organization, you'll find that things, they have the so-called the trickle-down effect. Yeah, things trickle down from top to down systematically. Yeah, you will never have, you have what you have line management. So if when you get yourself in a situation whereby the line management has been, bypassed, then this is where wisdom counts. Because once your supervisor realizes that you are talking to the boss and not through them, no, that is a serious basis of conflict. In many areas, one, your supervisor might start having grudges against you. Your peers might start thinking that you're a spy for the MD, so you get isolated. There are so many things that can happen about that. So a good MD would never want to encourage that kind of a culture. So in this case, I would suggest that these are communication issues. The MD has communicated directly to you. It's upon you now to see how to loop in all the other people in between you and the MD so that they are in the know of what you're doing, and they may have little expectations from you because they know you're already engaged. But that is a tricky situation, and I would not expect it in a professional organization.
Thank you, Ken. So I think there's a question which I believe most youths and the ambassadors have all been waiting for. We are all in the verge of completing our university degree, or we've completed our university degree. Personally, I was being told by our lecturers, you need to devote this amount of money. You guys are a special group, so this is what the markets will pay you. When I started job hunting, the market was way lower beyond my expectations. So the question is, how do you negotiate? I'm doing computer science, I'm just done, and I'm here, I can write lines of code, or I'm doing medicine, I'm a lawyer. How do you negotiate? How do you, especially your first job? We have expectation, I've gone to this prestigious university. I need to be compensated well. So how do you negotiate?
Salary negotiation is a sensitive area because you'll find most organizations, they have what we call job grades, and they pay according to that. However, sometimes we might be having our own budget or where we position ourselves. But however, as long as the company have got that budget, they will pay you according to that budget. So normally what I advise people is for you to do a research. Before you go for an interview, do a proper research. Nowadays, you can even go to Glassdoor and get to know how companies are paying for some positions. And of course, if you're fresh from school, you do not expect to be paid the same as probably someone who has like 5 years experience. So you might find it is not very easy to do, to earn exactly what you're expecting, but you have to do your research and know how much are they paying, or rather, what are they paying versus what I am expecting? Because sometimes we have very high expectations, which companies are not yet, they are not able to meet. However, once you join the organization and now you showcase what you can do, it becomes easier for you to negotiate your salary.
Just a small addition to that. Anish has hit the nail. Majority of the so-called professional companies work with the job grades and skills. So you actually don't need to negotiate. So they already know this is what we give to beginners, and they won't give you less. I've seen situations where you go to a company and you say, you asked how much what is the salary expectation? You say 20K. Then when they come and give you an offer, they actually give you 40K. So meaning that they will not take unfair advantage of you because you seem to be a poor negotiator. They have skills, they have professional etiquettes they must maintain. So their entry level is 40,000. Even if they found a fool who is asking for 10,000, they will not exploit the person. However, it's not all the time that we are going to start with those professional organizations that are structured and they have structures of how they operate, and they have guidelines that are moral and acceptable by and large. There are times majority of us start in the jua kali. I would actually start by saying this. One, when you're a beginner, avoid being a chooser. Sometimes, as we have kept on saying, you only need to get started. You have done forestry, don't expect to work for KWS. You might go straight to Equity Bank. So whatever you find yourself first, get onto it. Start accumulating experience. Unless you are very, very passionate about what you did, that you so much feel like you did BCom accounts and you want to be an accountant and you want to hear of no nothing. Unless you have that overflowing interest in that particular field, don't be a chooser. Whatever you find, however awkward it is, however uninteresting it might be, just get onto it. Start building experience. Of course, doesn't mean that once you have started in banking, you must die in banking. But it opens your horizon. So whatever you find, take it. Get started. Start learning the work ethics. Start adapting to the working environment. Start accumulating experience. As even if you really want to get into a different line or you have something you're passionate about, as you look for your way to that position, don't be idle. Take it. There are times you're going to get a job that may not even be paying as much as you may have got is reasonable. By all means, if that is all that you got, pick it up. Just as you can volunteer something, pick it up. Take it as a CSR, a personal CSR. But in the meantime, you are accumulating experience. You get to leave the house every morning. You start getting busy. Maybe you start earning something little that can even help you do another course to bridge a certain gap somewhere so that you're able to get into the career that you're dying for. So at the for beginners, these are, let me say, they are beggars who cannot be choosers. Don't be proud. Don't be arrogant. Take what life gives you and take it with a sense of gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think that's very profound. Our time is well spent. We are 3 minutes past our time. So just to ask the panelists to grant us some latitude for 7 more minutes, if that is okay.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so just opening up for questions from the panelists, please unmute your mic and ask your question, or just type on the chat and we'll be able to read it out to the panelists for them to answer. So as we wait for, I think so as we wait for the questions from the panelists, I think I have one more general question. What else can you do to shine in an organization apart from doing your normal duties? You've done your performance appraisal is good and shining. What are the other factors that can make you be above the rest of the staff?
For you to be the rest of the staff, you have to do, number one, you have to meet your goals. If you are assigned your duties, make sure you meet that. And always make sure you're in line with your manager and keep asking for feedback. How am I doing? What do you think I can improve? Like, for example, if you're leaving one position to the other, always check with either your colleague or your immediate supervisor, what are my strengths and what are my weaknesses, so that you keep on improving on your weaknesses. And again, if I am done with my work, personally, how I would go about it, and I have more time on myself, I would assist the rest of the employees. You can ask, if say, for example, I'm a receptionist, I am done answering calls and doing my work, you can go to your maybe supervisor and ask, I am done with this work. How else can I assist? Or rather, even a different department, how can I support you? So just making sure that you are hitting your targets, you understand your job well, and your KPIs are clear, and when it comes to appraisal, you are among the top people, and you can do over and above your job. At the same time, don't be a backbench person. Make sure you are always seen or heard. I don't know if you have ever gone into an organization and realized when so-and-so is not there, we feel the absence. Just make sure you're not just there, a backbench person. Let the company feel you. Let your absence be felt in a nice way.
Okay. On top of what Madam Sarah has communicated, there is one thing that always works, and for those who have used it well, it always gets, especially when they are in these junior positions. Always be the first person to arrive in the office. Let it be known that so-and-so is an early riser, and if there is something that needs to be done very early in the morning, so-and-so will. Let it be known that you're always the last person to leave, and you're not the person waiting, who clock checks every moment. There are times the company want to train people in very funny things that are not interesting. The company want to train people in firefighting. The company want to train people in security. Always be the first one on the line to be trained for anything that's been trained in that company, so that whatever training that there is, you are trained. However, whether relevant to your work or not, just be the first one to volunteer to go for that training. However, some are very awkward, some are stressful. Like if you're being trained for fire, I know sometimes it gets, it can squeeze. It's exactly a paramilitary training. So go for those difficult and awkward things. Make sure you accumulate all those certificates. If they are, even if it's an attendance certificate, just make sure you accumulate that. Yeah, as Madam has said, let it be known that you are that person who, if you want somebody here at 6, so and so will be there. If you want somebody here at 8 in the evening, so and so will be there. Especially when you're in those starting up, you get noticed so fast, and you find that you rise like a meteorite. It's never easy to be successful, so you must be ready to burn some calories, or you must be ready to take some sacrifice if you really intend to shine, because you accept at this point it's a competitive world. You accept at this point there are always people with more papers than you. So it gets a point where now we all come with our papers, we all come with everything. Now it's a question of who is getting it done. Yeah, make sure, like she has said, your tasks are always done. So it's known that if you want it done, so and so will get it done. If you want somebody to give you a story why it couldn't be done, so and so is in that category. So do you belong to the story that has explanations why it couldn't be done, or you are the one with the finished tasks? That makes the difference. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I saw a hand from Susan K. I don't know whether the hand is still valid. Susan?
Yes, I have a question about when an interviewer asks about what are your strengths and your weaknesses. What do they really look for when they ask you about your weakness? Is there a way that you can answer our questions? For example, if you're a person whose your field is marketing, and you happen to tell them that one of your weaknesses is that you're an introvert, can they disqualify you for that?
Very nice question. Yeah, actually the question in general is asking, how do you package your weaknesses? And what I tell people is that let your weakness appear like a hidden strength. Like for me, for all the years that I have done interviews, if you ask me what is your weaknesses, I will always tell you that my weakness is that I'm being patient. And I'll always explain it away. I'm impatient with mediocrity. I'm impatient with non-performance. I'm impatient with not getting it done. So what was a weakness, in the end, it turns out to be a strength. It's a latent strength. It's a strength that it's a weakness that can be harnessed to become a resource. So I would advise whenever you asked about your weakness, let your weakness appear. It's an apparent weakness, but it's also a hidden resource, depending on how it is tapped. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Any last question before we go to the parting shot, and then we introduce the teams behind this programming? All right. So maybe just to thank you so much, Mr. and Mrs. Kafiti. I think we've gone through and learned so much. These would otherwise have been paid for, but you saw it fit to share with the Karengata members and the wider audience, and we're really, really grateful for that. Sorry?
Okay.
Sorry? Well, I'm just trying to conserve my bundle so that I don't break. Yeah, so I think I just need to give you this opportunity for your parting shots, and then we introduce Wayne and Angie as the people in charge of mentorship within the AYS and the ambassadors, and we'll go for a closing prayer. So just an opportunity to give us your parting shots as advice to the ambassadors and the youths. Keeping in mind, some of them are joining, some of them are in the middle of their studies, some of them are out of university and looking. Just your parting shots. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, guys. We are really grateful for having given us the opportunity to come and share with this group. The youth are interesting people. In the village where I come from, we always say there is no poverty in youth. Don't dismiss a youth as poor, because youth is wealth. and you guys have your whole life ahead of you. You have opportunities to make all the mistakes. I'm not sending you to make mistakes, but you still have room to make mistakes. You have still some runway ahead of you to correct those mistakes. You still can change from what you're doing now and start afresh and feel no loss. You are still at the very formative stage. You are a lot that for now you're a potential, but please don't die a potential. That potential is a resource. So until it is tapped, it remains useless. So tap whatever the resource that is inside you. Your life is ahead of you. Focus. Don't be afraid. Somebody says that if you really want to succeed, increase your rate of failure. Meaning that try as many things as possible. Fail in as many things as possible. And in the process of failing in 100 things, you will succeed in 1 or 2 that will make a whole lot of a difference. But if you're not failing in anything, it means that you're not trying anything and you aren't being very useful to yourself, let alone to the world. So we are grateful for this opportunity to have shared with you. We hope we have done justice to the subject. And if we haven't been too boring, when you got another chance, please invite us again. Thank you very much. Madam, you have a word?
I think Kafiti has wrapped it well. I just want to mention that on that presentation that we did, the last page we put a website whereby you can go through quite a number of the common questions that are asked, and you'll get quite a lot of experience when it comes to interviewing. I also want to encourage you and let you know that Rome was also not built in a day, and it doesn't take like 1 year or 2 years for you to get where most probably where some of us who have worked for 18 years are. You have to work hard and always make sure you're updating yourself. Nowadays, we have a lot of seminars that you can attend online. We have a lot of places whereby we can volunteer to go and work. So make sure you do more and more of what you can, because sometimes we are told that time wasted can never be recovered. So make good use of your time. Thank you very much. It was nice working with you today.
Thank you so much, Kafiti. I think we cannot thank you enough. And as you have said, you already have a topic lined up, just like you suggested how to prepare a CV. I think that would be a very rude awakening topic. I think even the old, you'll be able to see how they've been doing their CVs wrong. Even the guys who are in employment who want to go for bigger jobs. I think that would be one of our topic to look out for. So just to finalize, we want to thank our Zoom audience and our YouTube audience. A lot of activity going on YouTube, a lot of comments running on YouTube, and I think this has been a very, very helpful topic. So this mentorship session was brought to you by the ambassadors and the AYS Council. And the AYS Council, I want to quickly introduce Wayne and ask Wayne just to say hi on behalf of all the ambassadors. Wayne, if you can unmute and just say hi to Wayne is in charge of mentorship on the ambassador side, and then we introduce Angie, who is in charge of mentorship on the AYS side. They are the guys who've been framing this and making sure that the youth and the ambassadors are mentored with the very relevant topics which are practical in their lives. So, Wayne.
Yes, thank you so much, Elder. Just want to thank the Kafitis for having such a great session. And my parting shot was that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. So if you don't go for that job you want to go for, if you don't like interview for that job you want to go for, you'll never get it. So you have to go a step forward so that you can get that job you want. And yeah, as Mr. and Mrs. Kafiti said, we are victims of our own, like, we don't make what we don't go for. So you have to go for what you want. If you don't go for it, you'll never get it. So yeah, thank you to everyone who joined. And yeah, thank you, Elder. Thank you, Mrs. and Mr. Kafiti, for the eye-opening session. And we want more of this. Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Wayne. Angie?
Yes, I'd like to say a huge thank you to both Mr. and Ms. Kafiti for your time, and as well for the in-depth insights about this first topic that we've just shared today. And we really do look forward for the many more. I've learned a lot. Every day you learn, you get something new, you understand something even better. So now that when I have that opportunity to look for another job, or when I look for a job, I'll use the tips and tricks that you've shared with us. So I'd like to say a huge thank you from the bottom of my heart. And for the rest as well, the audience, we really do hope that this has been as well insightful to you. And I'd also like to take this opportunity to request, in case there's any other questions or topics that you would be interested in the near future that can be shared by Ms. and Ms. Kafiti, or as well other speakers, I'd like you to feel free to write to either Elder, myself, William, or our leaders in the church. So thank you once again, and take it back to you, Elder.
Thank you. I think I will not be fair not to mention the AYS and the ambassadors leaders if they are connected. Ambassador leader, just say hi and gratitude to the Kafitis, and then Wycliffe for the AYS, you also say hi, and then you close for us with a word of prayer.
Can I go first?
Yeah, sure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Brother Kafiti and Sarah. The 2-hour session has been really an eye opener for us. Thank you so much for the great insights. You've really unlocked our hidden, both hidden and known potential, and we will take it a mile further. I hope this is not the last session we are having with you. I'm sure we've known where to consult matters, HR and related matters. So don't shut the doors for us after this session. And God bless you abundantly, even as you inspire other people, other young people out there. So Elder, just to inquire with you, did you ask me to pray, or who's praying?
Is Alice connected? I wanted Alice to say hi as well. When we are
yes, yeah, sorry.
Sure.
Perfect. So Alice will pray for us, because that will be the last.
Yeah, sorry. I was looking for a place that wasn't noisy. I was at a very noisy place. I still want to do the same and thank the Kafitis for having this discussion. I also hope it's not the last one, because I know a lot of us will need some help in that part. Also, maybe you could get inquiries from us as individuals. I hope you'll be able to help us out. So I think I can pray now.
Yes, sure.
Okay, let's have a word of prayer. Heavenly Father, we come before you this day with thanksgiving, thanking you for life, for health, and for strength. Thank you for this lovely discussion we've had that's able to impact us in our lives and help us do better and prepare for interviews. I also pray for everybody on this call, all the ambassadors of Karengata and all the youth, that you'll be with each and every one of them, meet them at their points of need. Bless us and guide us, bless the Kafitis, and bless everybody on the call. Be with us and bless us and guide us through our next week, because you're God. For in Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. Once again, thank you, everyone. And I think we can all drop. That's our pleasure.
Amen.
Thank you once again so much. We really are grateful for the presentation and the interactive conversations we've had. It's been really fruitful. You are first, so it's been a success.
Yeah, we wait for questions to come from the. I'm sure we'll have follow-up questions coming up, which I think we just share and reroute to you guys, if that will be okay. Yeah.
Great. Have a lovely evening.
Okay, bye guys. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Tommy, for your assistance as well. Thank you. Tommy Mogaka. Okay, have a lovely evening.